welcome to another episode of Woman Witness Podcast, The Stories at the Well. I'm your host, Leah Fortier. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of women that are out there making a positive impact and making a difference in their lives, in the community, and the world around them. Today, I'm so excited to introduce to you my guest, Miss Oasha Sears. But before I do, I want to read a little bit about her. Today, I'm excited to introduce Oasha Sears, a mother, wife, and entrepreneur. Oasha's journey is one of purpose and inspiration, stemming from a significant loss that left her yearning to rediscover vitality. Her path was challenging, pushing her beyond any previous pain that she had experienced. Following the footsteps of the Proverbs 31 woman for over a decade, Osha found solace and restoration in identity and reshaped her destiny through the wisdom and inspiration drawn from this woman. Osha is on a mission to empower women to embrace their authentic selves and appreciate their natural beauty and enhance their well-being and virtues. Her goal is to encourage women to surround themselves with life-giving elements, both in their homes and in their bodies. Osha, the founder of Grandeur Covering, a brand that focuses on wild crafted restorative beauty and health lifestyle. The brand aims to rejuvenate the natural beauty and health of a woman holistically. Remember, beauty begins with identity and health begins with recognizing our worth. Osha Sears. Osha, welcome to Woman Witness Podcast. How are you?
I am doing amazing that I'm here with you. We finally get to do this podcast after so many rescheduling.
Everything happens for a reason and for a purpose, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for that introduction. I mean, that was amazing.
You know, Osha, when I seen your remember beauty begins with identity and health begins with recognizing our worth, I seen that on the bottom of your signature and I absolutely love it. I brought you here and I'm excited that you found us. I want you to talk to us about that. You're going to talk to us about our worth, our beauty from within, and I'm so excited to have you here. But before we get started, I want to give you the floor and I want you to share with us your story, your journey and what led you to become this entrepreneur.
My journey started back in 2011. When my son passed away, he had drowned. And that was the beginning of my journey where just really truly discovering who I really was. Because when you go through something so unbearable, you know, you hear this saying say that when your child dies, like you die also. And that is so true. You know, when a parent loses a child, you lose yourself. And I say that was one of the most painful times of my life, but it was also one of the most beautiful, like I like to say, grandeur times of my life, right? It was magnificent. It was truly the divine love of God. And because I had built my life so much on, I've always been, I loved beauty my whole life. My grandmother, she is a woman of elegance, a woman of beauty. She's very always well groomed. She's always taught us how to sit up straight, how to, you know, she's a lady, my auntie the same way, my aunt Beverly on my dad's side. I just was surrounded by some beautiful women that presented themselves very well, that were very elegant and graceful in their appearance and their speech and their character. And I always wanted to, I always saw that, and I was always inspired and fascinated by it. And I saw that to be so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I modeled early on in my early years. And when you in modeling and you in that industry and you don't have that strong foundation with God, you tend to conform to that type of environment.
Yeah.
And what I was doing was like, I used to starve myself. I thought that if I'm a certain size, that makes me beautiful, right? I
Yeah.
have makeup, these lashes, the hair extensions. I did it all, right? And
Yes.
not saying that I'm just speaking from my own personal journey where I found my
Right.
beauty at.
Right.
And I take off the wig and I was like, oh my gosh, like I hate the way I look without this
Mm.
wig. I hate the way I look if my eyes are not lined up and my lashes
Right.
are not filled in.
Right.
And so,
Mm.
in my whole life, like since I was a little girl, what I wanted in my life was I just wanted to be a really good mom. I wanted to be a beautiful mom, and I
Yes.
want to be a really good wife, because I didn't have a mother. My mom and my dad didn't raise us. My grandmother raised us, so I didn't have that family structure growing up. So that was a passion of mine since I was a little girl. Also, I wanted to do beauty. I loved it, all things beauty. And
Ooh,
so specifically modeling and stuff like that. And I just love fashion, clothing, all the things. And I love all the things of the home. Yeah, I just love being a woman, being a mom,
yes. Come on.
homemaker. Like that's what I wanted when I was a little girl. I just wanted to be
Yeah.
that. Like it was
Right.
simple. And
Right.
so my first son, the one that passed away, when we had him, we were 19 years old.
Mhm.
And that was, to me, that was the best time of my life, because for the first time, I was
Yeah.
able to love something the way I was never loved as a child.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
able to love this little human being, give him the
Yeah.
love as a mother, and his father was in the picture. He's still in the picture. We're married, but
Yes.
I didn't have that. Like my father wasn't in the picture. And so to me, it was, wow, I'm doing a thing that I've always wanted to do since I
Yeah.
was a little girl. But the problem is that I was the whole from my early 20s until the
Yeah.
time my son passed away. I
Yeah.
want to say I was like my maybe 29 or something like that. I was building according to the world. And so I found my
Mm.
beauty in my accomplishments. I found my beauty in my appearance, in my clothing, in my soul, right? And that's I
Mm.
want to talk about that. Your soul,
Yes. There we
mind,
go.
will, and emotions. And
Yeah.
so if the world said, if you just be a good person, right? You do positive thoughts, and you just be strong in your control your emotions, and do your will, like what you want to do, be
Be
determined
perfect.
about what you want, not what God
Right.
wants, but what you want, right? Your
Right.
will. So that's what my thing, like what I want to do in life. Okay, I want to build this business. So I started all these different businesses, and
You started that before
no,
before?
other businesses. This was other business before.
Oh my god. Oh, you've been doing this for a while.
Oh yeah, I've been
Okay.
doing that. So me and my husband been doing business for a long time, but
Okay.
we were building our own empire.
Oh,
We
got
were
it.
building, look at me. This is what I can accomplish. I'm this fabulous woman. Look at how my kids are in private school. Like it was just this, like,
Yes,
look
ma'am.
at me,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
I have it all together. And really in my soul, I was suffering. In my marriage, we were suffering.
Were you aware of that, Osha?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. And so this is so funny how this is why I always tell
Mm.
my daughter, I give so much grace for those who don't know
Thank
God.
you, Osha. Yes, ma'am.
Because when we say, how can you not see that this is
How did
wrong?
you
When you're
know?
in it, you don't see it.
You don't see.
You don't see it. And you justify why you do the things that you do to
Yeah.
make your own conscience so you can feel some type of peace within
Yeah.
with yourself.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so that was my journey before my son passed away. I was committing adultery on my husband because,
Mhm.
again, when you're empty and you're trying to fill
Feel it.
yourself with makeup, with hair, with,
Yes.
spending all this money on these expensive dresses so you can say, I
Right.
had this gown on at this event,
Right. Right.
all these things that's just meaningless. It has no purpose,
And
It's
it would never fill that
it would
void that
never.
you
You'll get that quick satisfaction, but then reality hit once the event is over, right? And you got to put that
come
dress
on.
back in the closet.
Where it will hang forever.
Yeah, so
I
you got to
can't.
take off that hair. You got to get in the bed.
Girl,
Your husband want to connect with you, and you're like,
girl,
I'm not feeling it, and there is a
girl.
disconnect between the marriage, and so
Mm,
it's just like, and so that's where we were at. So a
mm.
week before my son passed away, me and my husband was literally talking about a divorce. I thought that I was a really good wife. The way I was building was,
Yeah.
my children was first,
Yes.
my family, my business was second, my accomplishments and whatever,
Mhm.
my dreams, all that was second.
Mm.
My family was third, and my husband was all the way down there. He was somewhere. You can find him somewhere down there. He was down there somewhere. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's how I was
That's
building.
that's what you have. Come on, Osha. Come
You
on,
know,
talk to us,
that's how I was
please.
building.
Please talk to
I
us.
had this mindset that my children are gonna be around, my family, but men come and go. So I'm
Mm.
gonna keep you all the way at the bottom because I don't know when you're gonna pack up and leave. And so that was my mindset. I'm beautiful and I got this 22-inch waist and I done had 2 kids. You can't tell me
Girl,
nothing.
you better
Like,
stop it.
you to the left. That's where my mindset was at. So when my son passed away, man, talking about really truly seeing yourself for what you really are.
My
Because I
God.
thought I was a good person.
Mm.
And so he passed away July 25th on a Monday. And the Bible said, don't grieve like you don't have hope. When I tell you, I didn't have hope. So, I grieved like I didn't have hope. My grieving response was so horrible to where the doctors thought they was going to have to put me in a straitjacket. Like they thought they was going to have to sedate me. That's how bad it was.
Oh my God. I can't.
The pain was so unbearable. I couldn't breathe. Literally, I could not breathe.
Yeah.
I was numb. Like when I made it to the hospital, into the little room, when they told me that my son didn't make it, I literally sat in that room for about 30 minutes, rocking back and forth, say, he's not dead. Xavier's not dead. Because I couldn't, this was my everything. He was before God. Like God was somewhere in the picture too. Because I was going to church, but I was just going to church. I'll go to the club on Saturdays and Fridays. I'll commit adultery throughout the week and then pray for salvation every Sunday.
Oh my God.
I do the salvation prayer every Sunday. That's why I tell people that salvation prayer don't work. Stop doing the salvation prayer unless you come to the end. You have to come to the end of yourself. My son's passing was me coming to the end. I had no more of me left.
No.
There was nothing left. But it was a beautiful thing that I experienced.
Girl.
Because it was too much of me my whole life.
I'm sorry.
And so he passed away that Monday. His funeral was that Saturday. I got on my knees in his room and I looked around and I said, man, I worked all these hours, working 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week to get him this 52-inch TV, this expensive video game, all these clothes. And I remember sitting in his bed and I remember crying. I said, God, I did all of this and he didn't even, I gave him everything. And he didn't even take it with him. To me, at that moment, I realized all of that I worked for, I worked so hard for these material things to try to fill my children when those things were so meaningless, because at the end of the day, you can't take it with you.
You can't take it.
And God spoke to me on that bed and he said, Oasha, he said, you gave him everything. You gave him me. Because even though I was out in the world, my kids was in private school. They were in the church. So they were still, God is so, his grace.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. He says, even when we're faithless, he is still faithful because he cannot deny himself. So even when I was faithless, I had no faith, didn't want faith, just wanted to add him. So to say I'm a good person, I go to church, but God was still faithful in the process because he made sure that my two children, my son and my daughter, knew him.
Yeah.
And so my son loved God. Like when I tell you, I can have so many stories about his relationship with God and how he used to teach me, about the love of God, and he was 10 years old. So I was in his room on the floor and I just started crying. And I said, God, if you are the God that people say you are, I'm going to need you to take this pain right now, or I'm not going to make it to the funeral tomorrow. You know what that meant? That meant I was going to commit suicide in that very moment. I was going to kill myself. And in that very moment, from my head all the way down to my feet, I didn't know at the time, but I felt like this vibration. It was almost like a cleansing. And I got up and I was never the same.
Really? In that moment?
Because I was desperate.
Yes.
Nobody could fix what was broken. Nobody.
Yeah.
Money couldn't fix it. My husband couldn't fix it. My sister, nobody could. Nothing could fix it. So I had no choice but to turn my face, like Hezekiah, the Bible said he turned his face to the floor, right? I turned my face to the floor. I said, you
got to fix this.
You got to fix this. And I knew deep down in my heart that he was the only way. And from there, my life had never been a change. Now, it's been the same. That it was a journey of peace in the midst of all of the pain. I battled with depression, but there was peace in the middle of depression. I battled with suicide, but there was peace in the middle of the suicide. Not that it wasn't present. I was fighting. I was not going to lose because I knew one day my pastor told me, my pastor was at church, he was preaching. He said, God, I wasn't reading my Bible during this time. This is how I connected with God, through worship music and meditation and visualization. And those was my 3 ways of how I connected with God. I'll go to church. I was a baby. I was on milk. I would receive what God said through the pastor, whatever spoke to me. And this particular day, my pastor was preaching. He said, God would heal your broken heart and he will bind up your wounds. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, God speaking to me. Because people would say, Oasha, you're gonna learn to live with this grief. You will never heal from the pain of a child loss. And I said, God, what I'm confused with you, because you said that by your stripes I'm healed, and that I can that I'm more than a conqueror. So so that tells me that I can conquer this grief. So I'm conflicted. And I
Yeah.
don't want to receive that message because I don't want to live with this pain.
Right.
This hurts.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Mm. Yeah.
It's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to live with this. The
Right.
thoughts of constantly have to battle with my imagination of
Yes.
seeing my son laying lifeless in a hospital bed, seeing him laying lifeless in a casket. Like, I don't want to constantly see those pictures in my mind. Like, I want to see hope.
Right. Ooh.
I don't want to see a future where he's not present.
Mm.
Like, I'm tired of I don't want to battle with these thoughts. I don't want
Yeah.
to battle with these images in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, you said fix my thoughts on things that are holy, pure, and righteous. Any imagination that exalts itself up against you, bring it down. So I don't want to be on a battlefield for the rest of my life battling with these imaginations and these thoughts.
No.
You know, and so when the pastor said he would heal your broken heart and bind up your wounds, I was like, oh my gosh,
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
this is it. This
This
is
is
my
it.
promise. My promise is that I will be healed, that I will not have to walk around broken. I don't have
Yeah.
to learn to live with this pain, that you will heal my broken heart. And this wound of child loss, man, the scar is gonna be there.
Yeah.
It's
It's
gonna
gonna
be a
be.
reminder, but when you first get wounded, it's painful. But when
Yeah.
it heals, you don't feel the pain no more.
Yes.
You are
Yeah.
reminded of the pain, but you don't feel that pain anymore. And I said, God, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And he said,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So I started this journey, and I held on to that word, and I'll struggle and I'll struggle. I'll struggle with my adultery. I'll struggle with seeing how I used to be, seeing that
Yeah.
I was an unfaithful wife, seeing that I was a liar, I was a gossiper, I was a manipulator. I walked in Jezebel and Delilah, like seeing all these things, I started
Yeah.
struggling. It's like, wait a minute, you says that I'm a new creation, but why I can't stop seeing myself, seeing
Yes.
the old me?
Yeah.
Why? God help me to stop identifying with the old me.
My God. Mm.
And I went on that journey with identity, and it was healing of the soul and my heart, you know,
Yeah.
from my son's passing. And also in a process, I was struggling with identity. I was struggling with,
Who
you
am
know,
I now?
yeah, who am I now? And I'm the reason why Zabin died. And, all these things because of
Mm-hmm.
my sins, because the Bible says that, when sin brings death. And
Mm.
so, going through that process,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
said, God, he led
Yeah.
me to, I can't think, I think it was in James, but it talks about being double-minded.
Oh, double-minded man.
And
Ooh,
it
yes,
said,
ma'am.
not being double-minded, unstable in all your ways. Because I was unstable, I'll be happy one moment, then I'll be crying the next moment, and then I'll be telling my husband it's his fault.
Ooh,
You know what I
girl.
mean? Like, that was my ways was unstable.
Stable.
And the world said it's okay because you're grieving.
That's what we say.
It's okay because you're grieving. And I want to say that in those moments, it's okay to experience it, to
Yeah.
allow yourself to experience that, but don't sit in it.
Don't sit in it.
Don't sit in it. Don't give yourself a license to stay in it.
Oh, that's good.
You know? And
Yeah.
so when God told me, he said, Oasha, don't be double-minded and
Mm.
unstable.
Mm.
He said, I want you to study the life of the virtuous woman. Because you're no longer Gomar. Because see, that's my story of Gomar. I tell
Yes.
people, like,
Oh,
when God
my.
said, the Bible said he took everything from her, and he
Yes.
stripped her bare naked, and he led her in the wilderness. And it was in that place in the wilderness where she was finally able to hear his voice. And he said, you would now call me husband. You would no longer call me master. And God led me to that story. And he said, Oasha, you're no longer Gomar. Like, Zaven's passing was a wilderness experience because everything was taken from me. We didn't just lose our son. I lost myself. Our finances went. Our businesses went down.
Yeah.
Everything. When I tell you everything, it came from every angle. We did not get any type of cushion. It was
None.
my family. I lost my relationship with my sister, my brother, my grandparent, my grandma, like my friends. Like, I had no more friends. Like, everything was new to me at this point.
My God.
Everything was new to me at this point. And
Mm.
so I was literally in the wilderness. When I look back, my family was a distraction because I was constantly trying to prove myself to them. I was constantly trying to take care and support. It was too much of a distraction. And
Yeah.
so God removed those distractions from me. Not that I made them a distraction. They think
Yeah.
you know. And so God
Yeah.
removed that from me so that I can finally hear his voice clearly. And I tell you, I heard him clear when I was
Clear.
in a place of desperation.
My
you
God.
know and so I go on this journey,
Mm.
and he taught and I studied the life of the virtuous woman. And the first one that I love to talk about, I could talk about the whole chapter, but the first
Yeah.
one was my very first revelation. It was, she laughed at the days to come.
Mm.
And God said, I want you to visualize yourself laughing in the future. I don't want you to visualize yourself depressed because David is not here. I don't want you visualizing your having these imaginations of,
Yeah.
you not having, like, you not seeing him graduate, and like, just
Yeah.
staying in that place
Yeah.
of loss.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to see yourself laughing. I want you to see yourself fully alive, because I was never alive. I thought I was alive.
Thought you were alive. Yeah.
God said, I want you to really see yourself living.
Mm. 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 Mm.
And I was like, oh my God. So I started imagining, I started imagining my son first. I started imagining, I started replacing the imaginations of him, like the last time I saw him. And I
Mm.
started replacing that with him being in heaven and him laughing and joyful and having a good time. And then
Yes.
I'll imagine myself in the future being so happy that I know that he's in a good place.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started to imagine myself laughing again.
Yeah. My
you
God.
know and
Yeah.
um and so I held on to that verse, that I was going to be healed, and I was
Yeah.
going to be laughing, and like David, still he stood naked before the Lord, and he
You
danced to the
just
street.
danced. Yeah.
Yeah, I started seeing myself naked, meaning nothing hitting, like
Yeah.
Osha being free to share her story.
Yes.
People are afraid to talk about they were adulterous wife and they had an abortion. I did all of that.
Yeah.
But I had vision that I was no longer going to be ashamed of my past, but that I was going to be free, like David,
Man.
standing in the streets and
Mm.
before the Lord and all the people around me, and saying, "This is my story," and I'm dancing. He
Mm.
has given me feet to dance.
My God.
Because I'm a mighty woman of valor, a woman of virtue, a woman of strength, a woman
Mm.
of grit. I don't give up. Even though this is painful and it's easy to take my life, the easy way out will be take my life,
Yeah.
but it's hard to persevere.
Mm. Mm.
The Bible
Mm.
says, consider the joy when your faith is being tested. Allow perseverance to do its work in you so
Yeah.
that you can come out mature and complete, not lacking. And I held on to that because this woman that I see in the future, man, she is dancing. She's not ashamed. She's not walking in condemnation. She know who she is. And I had no clue that that was going to tie into beauty when I started the journey.
Can I ask you, Osha, when you seen this woman, when you seen yourself in the future, was it in a dream? Did you lay down? Did you write it down? How?
It was vision. I just closed my eyes and I put on worship music. And when I started having those desires within me to see my son the way that he left, which was a very dark way to see him. When I started feeling like that was when those thoughts would come about, those visions, I'll turn on the worship music and I'll close my eyes and I'll just imagine myself dancing. Imagine as I'm meditating on that word, I would think about that word, right? I'll think about those scriptures. He said, meditate on my word day and night. I'll say, no, devil, I will not I will not see my future like this without him. My future is without him, but I would not be depressed and I would not be struggling with anxiety and I would not be, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to be living. I'm going to be fully alive. I'm going to be fully present.
Yes.
I was struggling with even being present with my daughter at that moment because we just had our daughter. Now we have, God bless us with 2 sons since then, but I
Mm.
was struggling with being present with my daughter, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was my goal. I wanted to be fully present as a wife and as a mother,
Yeah.
and not let this pain weigh me down. When I imagine myself, dancing and laughing at the days to come, and seeing that my heart was healed, like, man, this peace will come upon me.
Yes.
This hope, my hope will be restored. As I studied, I followed his instructions. He said, study the life of the virtuous woman. The next verse that really hit me was, verse 10, who can find a virtuous woman? For her value is
Value.
far above rubies, not
Yes.
one.
Yes, ma'am.
When he put an S on it, we don't know how many rubies that is.
No. No.
That could be 1,000,000 rubies, girl.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, somebody.
For generations.
Yes. And so I love that, because when I started to understand how a ruby is discovered, it takes 20 years to find a ruby. It takes a long time. And when a ruby is found, it's filthy. That doesn't mean that it's not a ruby.
Value.
It's still a ruby.
It's still a ruby.
But what makes it beautiful is when you put it in the fire. When the ruby accelerate in its value is when it goes through the fire.
My God.
And when it goes through that fire, all of those impurities are burned off. But listen to this. When they said that God will not give you more than you can handle. I know that's not a scripture. And I struggle with that saying. But I really believe it when I understood the life of the process of the ruby.
Yeah.
When a ruby is put in the fire, it is assured, the founder of the ruby makes sure that the fire is at a certain temperature.
Yes.
Because if the fire is too hot, it'll destroy it.
Yes.
If the fire is not hot enough, it won't cleanse it.
Yes. Oh my God.
So I'm here to tell you, David's passing God knew that it was not going to destroy me. That was just enough to wake me up.
Woo.
To pull me out of that dirt.
And
said, listen, I've always saw you as a virtuous woman.
Oh my God.
I've always saw you as that more valuable than a ruby. Even despite the dirt that you were living in.
Come on, Oasha.
My perception and my view of you has never changed.
Because I already seen the ruby.
Before you were in your mother's womb, I said you was a virtuous woman. I knew your future. I knew you was going to commit adultery. That's your dirt. I knew you was going to, have an abortion. That's your dirt. I knew you was going to lie, manipulate, control, deceive, all of these things. I knew that.
My God.
But it never took away from how I see you.
I've seen you. My goodness, Oasha.
Isn't that powerful?
That is.
Look, beyond. I can go all day on this ruby. Now we can go deep on it.
Oh, that is beyond powerful.
And so, and so when I looked at the life, just a ruby is extraordinary. It is one of the most valuable jewels on the planet, the pigeon blood ruby. And that's the ruby. Like you can't even put it. It's so expensive. And what I love about it is not only is it more valuable, but it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
You don't have to add nothing to it. All you gotta do is put it in the fire. That's all you gotta do.
That's it. That is it.
It just basically burns off anything that is not natural to the ruby.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay? Better, yeah.
Because when you burn it, all of those minerals that's in there, that extraordinary mineral, you just enhance it.
Yeah.
So the fire just enhance the beauty of the woman. Because when we're connected to him in the fire, how can you not see the glory of the Lord? And that's why
the 3 Hebrew boys now
with identity.
Yeah.
Beauty begins when we know who we are. So I took off the wig. I went through a process. I said, you know what? He said that he loves. God is so intentional about when he created me to where he knows the numbers of hairs on my head. Like, you think about your baby and it's like, man, if you had the time, because we love those babies so much. If we had the time, we'll just be
count all their little hairs.
Count all their little hairs, right? Because man, they're so
We
beautiful.
would, yeah.
Like we love them so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't want nobody to mess up that hair. Don't you
No.
put the wrong products in my baby hair?
No.
Don't you like we take care of that baby's hair? Like, like you you know. And so when I went through that process and I just saw myself in the arms of the Father, this little baby, and he has a time. His time, he is outside of time.
Yeah.
He don't have the time.
Yeah.
He was so intentional when he created us that he literally was counting the hairs on my head. And he said, Oasha, take that wig off. I love your hair.
Interesting.
He said, I love it.
Oh my God.
Why you don't love it? When you love something, why you hide it?
Why you hide it?
Because when you love something, you want to show it off to the world. You're so excited. You're so proud. It's like, why you hide it? And my husband used to always tell me for a long time that I was dealing with self-hate. Now, I don't believe that. Oh, I was so mad at him. Like, you have the nerve. I don't have no self-hate.
You just want me to look like you.
Yeah. And God showed me that it was a form of self-hate. And it started when I was that little girl that always dreamed to be that wife, to be that mother, to be beautiful in the process of it all, right? To be this extraordinary wife, this extraordinary with these healthy. I just wanted a healthy family, and I wanted to be beautiful doing it,
Okay.
And I lived my life through Barbie, and back in our times we didn't have too many like Barbies, and so I didn't realize that playing with those white dolls with this long hair, straight hair, it was so deeper than I thought. And then you get into modeling and they're like, oh, your hair is too, you need to get it straight, put a wig on, put some extensions in, So I went through a process of being set free from self-hate. Hating my nose. I hate that, my lips, my skin color, my mom, all of them was really light skinned. My grandmother, my dad's side, they're like on the darker side. So I fit in between the two complexions.
Right.
And growing up in my grandmother's house, she looked like a white lady, So when she go pick me up at school, the people be like, "That's not your grandmother," Yeah. And so, just struggling just with how God created me, and really falling in love with myself. But that didn't happen overnight. We talking about years of process of the journey of peeling back all of those layers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so and that's where the saying came from. Beauty begins with identity.
Got it.
It begins when I truly know who I am. Because when I first started, when my beginning of my journey, I thought I knew who I was. I'm a mighty woman of God. I'm a daughter of the King.
Yes.
And I had the wigs and the makeup and all this stuff. And I realized that I didn't fully know who I was.
Yeah, you didn't believe it.
Yeah, I didn't fully accept it. It was just really words at that point. It's the thing that you say as a church girl, right? It was in that journey that I realized that, oh my gosh, how can I hide this? How can I be ashamed of this and this? Why do I don't need to enhance anything with any outside source, because I'm beautiful just like I am. Internally, like in my spirit, in my soul, and in my body. And when it came from that, beauty does not begin in the soul, but it begins in our innermost being. When our spiritual man is aligned with God, then our soul experiences true beauty. Because beauty doesn't start in the soul. You can keep trying to work on your soul all day long, but if you're doing that outside of being fully connected to the love of God and loving yourself and fully knowing who you are, you're not going to exude the fullness of the beauty that He has predestined for you to walk in.
That's good. I can see that. Absolutely. You're going to be always trying to live up to what someone expects you to look like or sound like or be like.
At first I used to be like, oh my God, when I used to do speaking engagement podcasts, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to have makeup on. I got to do this. I got to have my wig. I used to be panicking.
Yes,
and I'm like, man, like bare face, lips, like
you go.
Like this is what God created and it looks amazing. Praise the Lord.
Good.
And I am so thankful
Yeah.
that he has brought me to this place
Yeah.
of loving every part of me. And I
Yeah.
don't have to hide none of it,
Mm, mm,
you know? And so
mm. Amen.
and the next verse of Proverbs 31 is the heart of the husband safely trust her. I went through, let me tell you my story. I went through every
No.
verse. I walked out every verse.
You did.
Just about every verse. And me and my husband we wouldn't be on the same page, and we'll still have some communication issues.
Yeah.
And I said, God, I don't know what's going on. Like, help me to be that wife, to submit to him even when I feel like he's being like not to me respectful or not compassion or graceful. You know what I mean? Like, help me
Mm-hmm.
to still honor him in those moments. Help me to still,
Right.
love him in those moments. To
Yeah.
submit, even when my flesh want to go back to the old Osha and be Jezebel and not submit and say, no, it's my way, sir, you get out, and so I was struggling, and I said, God,
Yeah.
help me, because you're the only one can show me. I've built my life so wrong for so long. And
I-
I've always dreamed to have that healthy family, that healthy home, and to be, just to be that amazing wife and mother.
Yeah.
But only you can teach me how to do that, because my way never worked,
Mm, mm,
you
mm.
know? And so he led me to Proverbs 30. I always go back. He said, go back to Proverbs 31.
Proverbs
And
30.
then he said, and that hit me. And I remember sitting in my room and I cried. It said, the heart of the husband safely trusts her. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. And he said, Osha, Reuben don't trust you.
Mm,
Just because
mm,
you know me now, that don't mean that all the damage that you had done gone away.
mm.
Just like you have to heal from your past, he have to heal from his past with you.
My God.
So the
Wow.
heart of your husband, Osha, he don't trust you.
Mm.
And that was really hard, because it reminded me of, again, how I always thought that I was a good wife. And I had to be reminded that, remember now, you wasn't a good wife.
People like, but God, I thought you fixed all of this.
I had to go on a journey of
Mm.
rebuilding trust.
Yeah.
And that was really hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard because, it's like, I have to trust you to lead when I've never done that.
Mm.
I have to trust you to, you know, um, just to lead. He's always been a provider. Financially, that's never been an issue. He's always been, you know,
Yeah.
he's always been, if you need him, even when he didn't know the Lord, that's something that God put inside of him, that he show up. He's a man of, like, his yes is
Yeah.
a yes and is he's always been like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was the struggle with authority. I wanted that spirit of a Jezebel, that desire to be an authority, because I don't trust you
Yes.
to lead and I want to control.
Yes.
And so I had
Yeah.
to lay that down. And
Mm.
God showed me this. He should remind me of the order of the marriage.
Mm.
It's Christ, and then it's the husband, and then it's the wife.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And God said, well, Osha, if you're not trusting him to lead, is a mirror of your trust in me to lead you.
And you said this was before he knew the Lord.
No, he knew the Lord at this time. But
Okay. Okay. All
before he
right.
knew the Lord, like, that was some things that I never had to worry about, as far as like I never fought him about.
Got
I
it.
never fought him about being a provider, or like
Mm-hmm.
doing something that he said, because that's just something natural that's within him.
Right.
But I struggle with, like, back in those days before we met the Lord, like,
Right.
that authority, you know.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
he is very authoritative, and he's not like a bow man. He's not that kind of husband. So
Right.
he's very masculine. So
Yeah.
we used to physically fight. Like,
Yeah.
we used to
Okay.
physical fight before Christ. Like, we went to jail and everything for domestic violence,
Uh,
because we both were very strong-willed. And he was like, you ain't
right.
gonna control me. And I'm like, you ain't gonna control me. And it'll be like,
Yep.
it'll be
Yeah.
like physical. It used to get physical. Now I'm in Christ now. And I
Yep.
can't do it like I used to do it, because I don't want to get physical, because
Yes.
I realized that was destruction, and it was
Yes.
toxic. And
Yeah.
my daughter had gone through enough, you know,
Mm.
and she don't
Mm-hmm.
need to not only go through the losing her brother, but
Yeah.
now watching her parents, And so I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't go that way. I
Yeah.
have to go God's way, and it's going to be painful,
Yeah.
because the Bible say love suffers.
Yeah.
That's we talk about love persevere. Love is patient, love is kind, love is gentle, but we forget that love do suffers.
Love suffers. Yeah.
And I had to, when I say suffer, I had to suffer in my own soul
Mm,
because
mm,
in my flesh.
mm.
Because when you are crucifying the desires of the flesh, it's almost like dying. It's suffering. Like, boy, it feels like, ooh, like life is about to end, you
Yeah,
know, because
yeah,
that will of living that way is so strong.
yeah. It's what it's used to.
Yeah, it's what you're used to. And so, I took that journey, and then
Mm,
I began to see just to speed it up, I began to watch his heart start to trust me after I started submitting, even when I felt like
mm.
he didn't deserve to be submitted to. I did. I'm just being honest. I did it anyway. I struggled, I
Yeah,
fought, and I kicked and I screamed to God, but I
yeah,
did it.
yeah,
And I started to see turnaround,
yeah.
you know. And then one day I was cooking. I had cooked a meal. And
Mm,
I was on my health journey and stuff like this of eating right and all this kind of stuff. I've always been on a health journey, even when I was modeling, when I was
mm.
in my when I was 19 years old. I've always been, but my
Okay.
my understanding on health was so vain. It was work out, eat the salads. It was all about
Mm,
your outer beauty and your waist size, fitting in that little size dress.
yes, yeah, yeah,
That's what my understanding of health was.
yeah.
And as I began to go on this journey of peeling back all of these layers of
Mhm,
understanding beauty and understanding health and understanding how to really build like a virtuous woman. Just speed it up, go back a little bit. In 2000, my son passed in 2011. We had a daughter
mm,
in 2015, and she was stillborn, and she passed away. I had to give birth to her. I
mm,
was 8.5 months pregnant.
mm,
And right after that my baby passed away, I was at the park. I was like, okay, let me get my body right. I'm running. And God
mm.
spoke to me. He said, why are you doing this? And I said, he didn't even have to act to explain to me why, because my heart was exposed. You working out, you trying to run on this track so that you can get that 22-inch waist.
Yeah,
It's vanity.
yeah. Mm, my God.
He said, when are you going to start doing it for me? Because see, I set the race that you have to run, right? God said He set a race for us to run. And in order for us to run that race, we have to have endurance. We have to be strong. We have to be healthy. So when are you going to start setting the tone, putting me first? And then all of that outer stuff is going to fall into place, right? That's a byproduct. Me working out, eating healthy because I want to be ready and prepared for when God says go. I don't want God to say, Osha, I want you to go and to take this territory. And I got diabetes and I'm struggling with my blood sugar. And my legs about to get cut off because I haven't been properly eating right. And now I can't go take territory because I'm struggling in my health. He said, so Osha, he said, so when you start doing it for me, you the 22-inch waist is just gonna come because you're doing it for me. Right? Because we know if you work out and you eat right, you're gonna lose the weight. Well, where's the focus? Is it about losing the weight, or is it about I want to steward my temple because I want to be ready for whatever God calls me to do? And when I go on, I started this journey. So with health, and I started looking at like with my husband, I cooked this day, and it was really healthy or whatever. And I was he was moving into more of a we were growing in our health journey. We were
Yeah,
already there, but it was not that next level of how we eat.
yeah.
And he was in the kitchen, he was fixing his food. And the Lord said, you're doing it, Osha. The heart of the husband safely trusts you. You do him good and not evil all the days of his life. He said, you know how you're doing him evil? Not just by covering him in prayer, honoring him, raising up those kids in the ways of God. All of these ways of doing him good, protecting his heart. But this is also how you do him good. You're making sure that the foods that you cook, that the home that you build, the environment that you create in the home, all the things that you bring in the home, you're making sure that it supports his health
Yeah, that's
all the days of his life.
mm, mm, mm,
You're
mhm.
doing it, Osha. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm doing it.
Like, not only do I value myself, I know that I'm invaluable. You can't put a price on my health.
Hmm.
And I learned that when my son in 2000 and the value of my health, that saying increased. It deepened with this story. And I'm gonna end it. In 2000 and uh bravery, my son, I can't even think of the year right now. He's 4 years old, girl. He's 4 years old.
Oh, yeah.
In 2000 and I think 14, he
Mhm.
was diagnosed. He was going to be 3 days before he was going to be brain dead. God had already gave me an assignment that my calling was to bring healing, restoration, and spirit, soul, and body in the family dynamic, starting with the women. And I go on this journey, and so I denied just like doing it the traditional way, because God told me to do everything natural.
Yeah.
And so long story short, um, I partnered with a naturopathic doctor, and we were spending like over $2,000 a month for herbs and all this kind of stuff to heal him.
Yeah.
It was in that moment, like we were skipping, like it was so we bills went without being paid,
Yeah.
like because I could not put a value on his health.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
God showed me, like, we should live like that, not just when something goes really bad.
Mm.
When a virtuous woman, the Bible says she goes afar to get their food, meaning she sacrificed, she goes above and beyond to get the best,
Yes.
because she know that you can't put a price on my family's health.
Yes.
They are
Yeah.
invaluable, just like the ruby is valuable. But the difference between us and a ruby, you can't put a value on us. You can put a value on a ruby, but you can't put a value on us. We are invaluable. That's why God put the S on behind the rubies, because we are invaluable.
Mm.
And that's why I
Mm.
said beauty begins with identity, and health begins when we know our value.
Man,
We stop putting a price on it.
that's good. That's so good. Absolutely. Oh, okay. Osha, I don't want to stop but we have to. I need you to tell everyone. My mind is like, I want to change something. Look, I'm ready to hit the ground running. Do you understand? Like, I'll tell you one thing. I will tell you this, and then I want to ask you to tell us where to find your products and where to find your book. I want to thank you so much for being vulnerable, letting us in and letting us look at ourselves, pulling back some layers for me, so I could see myself in every part of your story, and being able to see different areas that I can work on myself. And thank you for being vulnerable and letting us into the identity of the Proverbs 31 woman. And I mean, I can take it and continue to run with it. I want you to tell us where we can find you, where we can find your book.
So yeah, you can find me on all the social media platforms at Oasha Sears. That's on Facebook, Instagram. I don't really do much TikTok, but I try. So you couldn't find me on TikTok. You can find the book at www.grandeur covering.com, and the book is called 22 Clues, and it's a guide of how to be a virtuous woman. It's really simple. It's very simple in how we can take simple steps in tapping into that next level of virtue. Because I believe that all of us as women of God, that we know there's a part, we know it to some extent
Mhm.
about our value and our identity. And that's
Yeah.
just like me. And in 2 years from now, I'm gonna be learning something new, And so
Look.
as we continue to deepen our understanding of who we are, and grow and I guess and grow into who he says we are, And so but yeah, the book is really simple. It's a really easy guide.
Yeah.
And it's really not that complicated. But yeah, if you want me to come back on, we can talk about just the ruby. I can go, girl, we can have a whole session on the ruby, okay?
Let me tell you something. Osha, when we get off here, I need you to book another one because I have so many questions. And I want to say this, ladies, if you're listening to this and you know somebody, and I know you know somebody, please share it with them. Please share this podcast episode with them. This was so powerful. Osha, you really did your thing. You poured today at this well. And I hope that a lot of people who are listening, I hope you feel full, and I hope you feel encouraged, and I hope you are ready to at least crack open that book. You don't have to ever open the Bible. You could be your first time. I promise you, you will grow just from starting at Proverbs 31. And I will put all of that information. I will try to remember the stories that Osha mentioned and put them in the description below, so you can follow it biblically and follow along. You do not have to be a Bible scholar, I promise you, but you will be blessed by just starting to walk. Okay, Osha, leave us with a quick something to bring with us throughout the week, some quick motivation.
Oh, I would say the first, my motivation and encouragement would be to protect your heart. The Bible says, out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks. And when we look at the virtuous woman, we look at the story of Eve. Eve was created from the rib of Adam. Well, your ribs are your vital, or your ribs' job is to protect your vital organs. One is your heart. A ruby is known when you look at the ancient medicine of ruby, how they use the rubies back then. The high priest, all of them wore rubies and stuff like that. Like a ruby is known for helping with blood circulation to protect the heart. When we protect our hearts, we're able to protect the heart of our husbands and protect the heart of our children's and the people that God brings into our life to steward.
Okay. All right. Y'all heard it. Osha, goodness gracious, I'm bringing you back on. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to another episode of Woman Witness Podcast, The Stories at the Well. I'm your host, Leah Fortier. Osha, thank you so much for being my special guest today. Until next time, perhaps you were chosen for such a time as this to write, to tell your story, your truth. Until next time, bye.